Ha'Omer, and thank you. Hilchos Sheni Achad Tfilas Arbis Maschil Nisbor Ha'Omer.
Where are we?
Tough pay test Sif Aleph. Apologize. And the second night of Pesach, after Sefiras Ha'Omer, after Ma'ariv, we say Sefiras Ha'Omer. V'mshogach lispor b'tchilas halayla, choylech u'sefer kol halayla. Now this is what I call a difficult concept. Many years we try to tackle it, and every year we get a little bit further. There's I would like to start off with a fantastic machloikis. I call this machloikis the Briskerov and Igros Moshe. Allegedly, I never saw the Briskerov. Allegedly, the Briskerov measured the ribua of his tefillin with like a magnifying glass and capital. Now, I would just like to mention a piece of advice to people in the Limudei Chol, in secular things, which I learned from my father, in the subject to do with Farm Shaluchnius. The fellow who I make my batim by is a man who wrote the book on the subject. Wrote the book on the subject, and he takes a lot of pride in his work. And there's this capillary, I don't know if you know what it is. It's like these two. It's a way to measure things exact. So I came to him once and said, your tefillin came out perfect. I said, it doesn't make a difference. And he says, no, they really came out perfect. So that device that he has measures to 100th of a millimeter or something like that. I have a suffix if you could see 100th of a millimeter. It's like really a very fine thing. And you get the ribua, it's exact. So I said to this fellow I knew for many years, I said, so tell me, and I made many pairs of tefillin by him, most of them are not exact. It's when I say they're not exact, none of us here could tell. And I'm not even sure if you had this device, you'd be able to use it precise enough to be able to tell. So I said, does it really make a difference? So he says, absolutely not. It's not an amoritz. He knows it doesn't make a difference. So I said, why do you do this? He says, because it has to be good. This is what I call craftsmanship. The person takes pride in his work. It has absolutely no halachic value, but it has much greater value than halacha value, so to speak. This is a man that takes pride in his work. It's not 100% perfect. He won't let it out of his hands, so to speak. Now,
that come under the heading of.
Oh, 1 second. Now, they told her Moshe Feinstein, I'm right now quoting a Tshuva Igros Moshe, that the Briskerov used some kind of a device to check the ribua of his tefillin. And he says, Chas v'shalom, cannot be. There is no such thing. It's perfect if it appears perfect. Absolute perfect has no place in halacha. Okay?
Is Rav Moshe speaking?
I'm not speaking. Right? This is it cannot be that he did such a thing. Now, in Brisk, I happen to have a little bit of inside information. It can be, and there are other reasons for it too. But the truth of the matter is that the Briskerov is also maskim to Rav Moshe. That's what I believe. Just there are other issues involved. But you don't do something which is not 100% perfect. Now, but there are certain things which are halachically good enough to go by, but it's not the whole thing. So if you have what we'll call this thing that's off by, I will use this expression, which is which is the subject actually of Ribu of Tillin, it has to be Chagiras Hatziporim. Chagiras Hatziporim means that it can catch your nail in the groove. A person's nail is rather thick. So a very fine crack, person most times would not be able, you may be able to feel it, but definitely would not be able to envelop. That means like this.
Drop into.
What?
Drop into.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that's the right word to use, to drop into it. So as long as it's less than that, then it's called perfect. Is it really perfect? No. So now, that's one world. There are certain things which we want done from the beginning to the end. And even though you didn't do it from the beginning, mamish, it's not late enough to say that you don't have the whole thing. I'm going to take a gross example of this. Zrizim makdimim lemitzvos. Okay? How close to the beginning of the time does it have to be zrizim makdimim lemitzvos? Let's say sunrise is at 6 and sunset is at 6. Person did a bris at 8 o'clock in the morning. Is he zrizim makdimim lemitzvos?
Closer to the beginning of the day than midday.
You know why you could be a lawyer? Because I asked you one thing and you said something else.
It's the answer. The answer is it's closer to the beginning of the day. The midday, it's still Zaris.
That's still called Zaris.
Is it an absolute or is it a relative?
Well, maybe we'll get to the answer. I'm not sure which one of those goes which way.
Well, if you think it's earlier than doing it, 8 o'clock is earlier than 10 o'clock, that's a relative.
That's true. And 4 o'clock in the afternoon is better than 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Yeah. Right. And 1 minute before Shkia is better than on the buzzer, right?
You call him all and he says, I can give you 2 o'clock or I can give you 3 o'clock. So Zaris will take the 2 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Now, I don't think that's true. This is exactly, I will just say, just on this point in particular, I was at a bris when I was a teenager, maybe, and there was a Litvisher Shiva who spoke, and he said over from a label Ager, who he was press that, that's the way you're supposed to press. There you go. He said over from a label Ager that label Ager was a loyal, and he always used to do the bris right before Shkia. And he said the Litvaks say that we're not Makayim Zrizim Makdim Lemitzvah. We are. A Zaris is Makdim Lemitzvahs. He means he does Achonas for the Bris. And that Achonas, according to the Chassam Sofer and others, has to be done at the time of the Bris. So therefore, we're busy doing Achonas till the end of the day, and we do it by the buzzer. And that's why we're called Zrizim Makdim Lemitzvahs. But here, Zrizim Makdim Lemitzvahs means something else. It doesn't mean that you do it early. It means that you precede the mitzvah with something else. Right? So it's a different play on words. The Mishkan Shaykh says that if you do a bris before Chatzos, you're Makayim Zrizim Makdim Lemitzvahs. Exactly like Gil said. However, there's another aspect of Shihui Mitzvah Loi Mishahina, that we have a mitzvah to be done, we don't let it sit around, we expedite it as quickly as possible. So that's not an Indian of Zrizim Magdimim, that's an Indian of what we would call Zrizis. Okay? Now, when it comes to Sefiras Ha'Omer, a person can be Makayim counting as long as he did it in the time where it's permissible to count. A person has to, let's go to simple, a person has to count at night. So it's good enough. Did you count the whole night? No. But counting it at the end of the night is enough to have the night be counted. I would like to say the following, since we're right after Pesach, and I'm sure nobody will remember this by the time next Pesach comes around. According to many poskim, in my opinion, if the person made matzah and forgot to make it l'shem matzahs mitzvah, and the last guy on the line says l'shem matzahs mitzvah, it's good enough. You understand that? Oh, I'm happy I asked you. Is that a question or an answer?
He's part of the process, he's the finishing part of the process.
So now I would ask you, is there an advantage of from the time of the Nesilas Hamayim to say l'shem matzahs mitzvah? What? Not only that, I'm going to share with you something which is beyond my comprehension. The Maril writes that when one draws the Mayim Shalanu, this is at least 24 hours before the thing, he should say l'shem matzahs mitzvah, because he's taking the water that's going to be used in the process. Now there's nothing happening, right? But it's already the process has started enough that you could already possibly brand the actions as l'shem matzahs mitzvah. And I believe that there's more lishma in it. You have a passing grade if you did it possibly at the end, but the Maisa, it's supposed to be done lishma the whole time. Okay? So
being deleted in mitzvahs as well. You do it at an earlier stage. You should have the kilometer at an earlier stage.
why does a person do these in the mitzvahs? Because it should show that it's not at all that you're in a hurry to do it, right? Is the mitzvah better? Or you just Makayim Jesus?
Yeah.
It's not
But
clear.
it's nothing to do with the mitzvah.
Not clear to me because I've been thinking about if it's reading mitzvahs.
If I know the words you said, if what? I know the words.
If it's a big, very important piece of reading the mitzvahs, maybe you would find more rabbis, like for example, taking in Shabbos early. Because that's being the reason with mitzvahs, it's taking the Shabbos at the first point, you can take it in. But Rabbanim as a rule, I've seen do not do that.
That could be. But there are many reasons not to take in Shabbos early. There are many reasons not to take in Shabbos early. And I'll just share with you something fantastic just to complicate matters. Person is supposed to daven Shachris at the first moment of L'chatchila, and you're not supposed to daven Mincha, not the last second, but after Mincha Ketana. All right?
Which doesn't seem to be Jerusalem.
But there's a reason why it should be done then. Because the Korban was brought at that time. It's not because there's a preferred time. Sometimes the preferred time isn't the earliest time. So you can have all kinds of issues. And early Shabbos, I believe, has a little bit to do with that also. But the bottom line, after this introduction, I'd like to this part. And it says the Mishnah Berurah, the Oimrim, this is to do with Chutz La'aretz. I'll be the Rishon Chagim, etc. We do it before Aleinu. Why? Because my the Efsher Lakdu Me Makdemino. We want it to be done as early as possible. Why? Sheyiskayim Yoser. I have no idea how to translate that word. What does the word Yoser mean? More. More Niskayim Tamimus Tiyana. It's more Tamimus. Anybody can translate that? It's a higher level. It's closer to complete. You can never do it complete, but closer to complete. So there's an aspect over here. It doesn't say just count 49 days. Aside from that, there's an aspect that they should be Tamimos. And that means full days. Okay?
I've noticed the Hasidim Zeru, they count after Aleinu. Is that because Tadir, they know Tadir, they hold it's more important Tadir Kodesh?
Don't know. I don't know what that is. I'm not familiar. I can't answer that question. We should don't know. All right. Achat Yilasarvis, the Kodesh one, call that fine. Maschil and Esmor, Venoshim, Vavodim, Turas, and Mitzazu, Davi Mitzah say Shazman Droma. Also, Amogen Avrom, Mio Kwasholai Choivo, women and children. I would say that this has changed dramatically in the last 50 years. Most women today, I think, count sphere. You want to count sphere?
Interesting.
What?
Interesting.
Most women count sphere. So now, different places, the Chassidim, I don't think the wise count. Because we say Shulchan Shlomo, Kaponim Lo Yavarchu, Dimyotu Yomechon, etc. But that I don't even think say that most women, the generation of girls that are 15 today, let's just use that, will not believe in 30 years if you told them that 100 years ago, in other words, 70 years ago from today, most women did not daven Ma'ariv. I'll just remember that, okay? In 30 years from now, they will not believe that most women didn't daven Ma'ariv. There has been a major dramatic change about the amount of women who daven Ma'ariv done in the last 25 years. And that's because of one particular person. But it had a very great impact on Klal Yisrael. So things have changed. And therefore, I will say the following statement. It's easier today for a lady to count all of Sphira than it is for a man. Because a man who misses a day of Sphira, what happened? For some reason, he didn't daven Ma'ariv with the minyan. That's what happened. And if you don't daven Ma'ariv with the minyan, so then you don't remember. I don't remember to count Sphira. Yeah, that could be. I don't daven Ma'ariv with the, I don't remember to count Sphira. I just daven with the minyan, and it does it for you. Women, when they have to daven by themselves, so they have a conscience reminder. I'll just say that in today's day and age that we have these an extra limb given to us called a cell phone, that limb, you can have it ring every night to remind you to count Sphira. And it's a good idea. Before you go to sleep at night, it should ring. Possibly you'll even if you remember to count Sphira, maybe even remember to daven Ma'ariv. At any rate, all right. Says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Bi'alacha, because of the Sefer Ha'Omer B'Ktzia, the time the Sefer Ha'Omer Mishum the Bateris HaYishonim HaYaminig L'Spal Arvis Koydem Halayla. They were daven Ma'ariv early. The Siyum Ma'ariv Hischil Halayla. They ended up, they did what's called Mincha Ma'ariv, and the Mincha Ma'ariv. So then that's let's say it works out almost perfectly here in Eretz Yisrael. You daven Mincha before Shkia, and it takes you about 15 minutes to daven Ma'ariv, and that's called, according to the earliest Shita, that's called Naila. So it's perfect, right? So why don't you count beforehand? Because beforehand is the day. Ma'ariv carries you through from one day to the next day. Okay, because of the Medina, you have to do Kriya Shema Tzilah because they're Tadar. Now, I just got a comment on your subject. Is the later part of davening?
It's minhag, isn't it, to complete the service?
Well, you could be, if you're looking for an associate lawyer, we have one for you. I just asked you a yes or no question.
Yes, it is.
I think it's a machlekes. According to some, it's the way you end up Ma'ariv. According to or Shachris, according to others, it's a supplication said as a mover between tefillah and going into your day. Just as, and I'll just say something which is exceptionally fascinating. Who said Aleinu? Yeshua. What was Yeshua's job? He moved Klal Yisrael from being the Dordea, 'Dea, 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 And that's when Aleinu said. No, it said as a, so now did I just say that's part of davening or it's after davening? What? No, but it's a mover of in between, but it's not really part. This is what? What? It's not, I think it's a transitional thing. It's not part of Meir, but now that you've davened, now you have to go someplace else, so you need this extra mover.
Davening was until 1,000 years later after Yeshua.
Davening wasn't what?
Shmoneh Esrei was until 1,000 years after Yeshua. So they didn't have davening as before. So why does that make?
The concept of Aleinu, this is a tefillah that said when you go from one realm to a different realm.
He did Valkane.
And it's part of the yeah, this is part of this. This is part of all this part of the same kind of a thing. That's yeah, but and this is part of the same thing. There's actually a very big machlokes. The minig that we have is by a bris Aleinu is said. According to many, that's the wrong thing to be said. A different tefillah is supposed to be said, but this that's a whole different. How did that was Mishnah? I don't remember exactly that concept, but because whenever there's some kind of a dover shel kedusha which is done, then that's what's said. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Says the Mishnah Berurah right there. A person has to count mu'umad, and the person has to count by himself. Says the Mishnah Berurah. As long as it's still nighttime, you still call timas because you still have the whole day. You should be counting. V'hinei, mashma mizeh, dasira eino kamo shar mitzvah klol ba'amira, then yikiddush avdol kiyotz lehem. Dimshama lechaveyo v'neskaven lotzes biyotz v'zeh mishut k'mei koinu v'hoch giltz Torah t'layotza kol kama t'laysofa ba'atzma. You have to do it yourself.
Why can't the fisherman comment?
No. You're asking a very good question. I'm not sure that I know what Shomea Ka'ona means. And I'll explain to you, actually, I have a sefer at my disposal that's this fat on the subject of Shomea Ka'ona. But I'd like to explain to you, it doesn't say Shomea Ka'omer. What does it mean Ka'ona? Responding. Shomea Ka'ona, the Gemara, the place that learns it out is talking about regular conversation. Shomea Ka'ona, I'll just use the classic place where the oil my yeshivas this is discussed. It says that you can't Berachas Kohanim, you cannot do with Shomea Ka'ona. And according to some, the reason why is because the halacha is Berachas Kohanim has to be b'kol ram, and you can't do b'kol ram with Shomea Ka'ona. Because Shomea Ka'ona doesn't mean that you're like a ventriloquist, that you're throwing your voice out of that person's mouth. That's all it means. It means somehow you can annex that which he is saying. And therefore, it's like that you said it. Now, I'm going to give you some examples. Your question is very good. I'm going to answer it in part. There's a machlokes, the Litvaks and the Chassidim, about Kiddush. Any good chussid knows that every male makes their own Kiddush. Every good Litvak knows that Berevam Hadras Melech Shasha Voitze Shem Shemaim Levatov. Nothing like harmony in Judaism. Okay, now what's going on? So the Tosfos Shabbos says that mitzvah boy Yosem Mibishluchot, and with Shomea Ka'ona, it's not mitzvah boy Yosem Mibishluchot. I mean, I don't know if you say it's not. You are. It's not boy. It's not boy. It's b'shluchai. Is that true? Would you have said that?
No, it's like you're saying yourself.
It's like it's in between the two.
So right. So this is Now this a concept. I'm just going to give you where you know this. You're standing in the middle of Shemona Esrei, and they're saying kedusha, so you're not allowed to talk. So you have in mind to be yaitza with the chazan. Why? So say it. If Shemea Ka'oyna means that you said it, so just say it.
Whereas listening, I have sick because.
But if you're allowed, one or the other. What you have to either ignore him or say it. What kind of pseudo idea is this? Do with Shemea Ka'oyna that you somehow in a transient state that you have the best of both worlds. All right, so we're just showing you that this is Shemea Ka'oyna is much more complex than we're saying. And over here we say that you have to do it yourself, even on the mitzvah of Haggadah. There's a machlokes whether you could be yaitz l'shemea kohen, because there are things which a person has to feel. Right, the Haggadah is something that's supposed to be an emotional thing, and emotional things can't be done with shemea kohen. It's like having a fast food. Okay, I can't.
Happiness.
What?
Happiness.
Yeah. Right, you have to pay somebody to go on a diet for you. It's like a lot of what? Someone can eat for you. I don't know, but I'm saying, but I'm just explaining that these ideas are not so concrete. So sometimes we need you to have it to say yourself. And I'll mention this. The minhag in my family is, this is taken from Rabbi Kamenetsky, that when we travel, everybody says Tfilas Haderech because it's tachanunim. It's not a bracha, and it's a personal tefillah. That's what tachanunim is, a supplication. You can't have someone supplicate for you. It's a concept. It's there to the concept. It's not personal.
So you can't have someone supplicate for you, but the whole idea of the korbanos and the kohanim. I think last week's parsha, the kohanim eat, and the balim receive the kapara through the eating of the kohanim. So that's kind of the equivalent of the supplication on behalf of the balim.
That was total imagination on your part. The Gemara says, listen to this. The Gemara says, Efsher Korban Shalom Korev, and he's not there. And therefore we had Mamodos. We had representatives of every single Shevet there in Yerushalayim to stand around and preside over the Korban being brought. Because how could you have your Korban be brought with you not being there? So obviously your Shevet is a representative. You don't have to have everybody be there the whole time. But yes, it has to be there. Now, when the Mizbeach eats, you're also miskaper, right? So the kohen eating is another way that you're miskaper, so another aspect of avodah done by the kohen. But it's not like you ate it. And a shlomim, then you eat. All right. Anyways, so something you have to say, we have things we have to make sure that they're done. Not that you have to do that, you have to make sure that they're done. Exo. When I say there's an obligation in the city for there to be a shul. Who's that obligation on? Is that his first name or his last name? It's on everybody and nobody. It's not on anybody specifically. We just have to make sure that it's done. Correct. Yeah, and they are the embodiment of the. I hate to have to deal with an Englishman. Taxation without representation. But you don't know anything about that because you're busy drinking the tea that we threw overboard. Anyways, but everybody to a certain extent. I believe that's true. Right? I don't think that it's the same, right? You know, it's a communal responsibility, so your responsibility is not as great as something which is a responsibility on you yourself. It's a shared responsibility, right? It's not the same. Not the same. In other words, okay, we'll leave it at that. Anyway, because of the Lloyd and mitzvahs are best of our koi, kemor b'shmitim v'yoyvus, d'chsev asartem acha, elakoy atzivor. Our emes v'shom mechaver shesafar v'izkav v'motzes, v'gav chavero kivem etzio yotza, kemor b'chol mokom d'kaim b'lon shomer koina. This is not an unusual mitzvah. This is a regular mitzvah that has to be done b'dibur, and you can be able to shomer koina. V'chol zeh basfira. This whole discussion is only relevant to the counting itself. Ava the bracha shem the bracha malasira kuyam actually Lord says ayidei chavero afilo hu baki k'makol brachas. Miu mig b'chol yisrael shekol echad mevorach l'sefer la'atzmai vein tzayim chan al shliach tzibur. Now, I would just like to mention, in my opinion, one should never be samech on the shliach tzibur. And the reason why is because the shliach tzibur has to have a mind to be meitzil. In order for the shliach tzibur to have the mind to be meitzil, he first has to have a mind. Okay, and since so many times the shliach tzibur is just on autopilot, so not necessarily is he meitzil. And this will have to do with the question whether Sefiras Ha'Omer is the Deraisa or the Rabbanan, which we're going to discuss at some point later on. But actually, in my opinion, if you're in shul and you missed a day, you should not be yaitza with the shliach tzibur. You should ask the fellow next to you. If you're in a shul that has a rov and the rov does sfira, usually you could assume that the rov has his brains on, and I have no negias. Anyways, because to achronim. Yeah, you can do that. That's 100%. You can, if I would. That's not what I would say to the shliach tzibur. I'd say, please have everyone of it. Correct. There's actually a fascinating tshuva in Shevet HaLevi. This is unbelievable. This is for the rabbi's manual. What happened if the rabbi missed a day? So that's very embarrassing. So the Shevet HaLevi says that the rabbi, if he missed a day, is still allowed to count with a bracha. And he has a whole piece to support this concept. Okay, so you will never know. At least hopefully not. Anyways, this is not, what I just said over here is, this is not tefillah. This is not kriya shema. Those, even though you don't understand what you're saying, you said the concept of Lashon Kodesh, it's good enough. Sfira has to be counting, and if you don't know what you're saying, that's not called counting. Okay, now this is a fascinating thing. I'm not really sure that I understand what we just said. If I were to go right now to France and I put on a piece of paper number 1, and I tell the Frenchman today is the first day of Sfira, and I've already missed a day, right? And I say, would you be mitzi? I'm very hoarse. I can't talk. I have laryngitis. I don't want to. I know what day it is. So when he's going to say 1 in French, do I know what he's saying? So what does he mean? We don't know what he's saying. I'm asking right now a partial shot question on the Mishnah Berurah. Because he's French. I'm in French. I'm in France. You could. And not only that, it's not even more religious. It's nothing. This is not a. We like to keep things formal and do it in text, and not only that, according to some, So the reason why women didn't count is because it was always done in Hebrew and they didn't understand Hebrew, so they couldn't count. All right, but theoretically, there's no reason it can be done in French, as we just said. So I'm here I know what today is, and I tell the Frenchman to have me in mind. Still, halacha is that I'm not Yetzer. Why? I can't count like that. But I don't know what's being said. I don't relate to those words. In other words, when you hear a language that you're not familiar with, you're sometimes not even certain where did the word end, where did the next word start. All right? No, this is all right. Anyways,
just what occurred to me. Suppose the Rav had one of these advanced computer applications. The Rav had a software that wasn't able to count and indicated the computer application to count on behalf of him. Would it be any different from what the argument about machine master pressing the button and it's considered good enough?
absolutely no connection.
Yeah.
The Shari Tshuva discusses whether you can count by writing. But the voice simulated is not voice. According to most poskim, and I'm just going to say this as a accepted given here in Eretz Yisrael, I didn't see every place in the world that's like that. When you speak on a microphone, you're not Yetzer. You can't be mighty somebody like that.
Yeah, so
Why is that?
I guess we don't consider it as if
What happened?
It's probably answering a name to that book.
What happened?
It's an echo or something.
Reproduction.
What about? I think most people here are old enough to know what I'm talking about. The 2 cups with the string. Is that also reproduction? First, you have to have a paper cup, right? That's not.
Tin can. It's a lot great.
Okay.
Version 2.
Okay.
It's also reproduction.
That's also reproduction.
Also, what your voice is reproduction. Voice gets transmitted as a wave in the air, and your picks it up and translates it to voice, to a
Well,
noise.
that's what hearing always is.
Right.
That's not
So
reproductive.
instead of going through the air, it goes through a wire in the cups. Between the
What?
2 cups.
And being that, it's an incomplete thought. And being that that's a natural process, it's called the same thing. Whereas when it goes through you don't mean a wire, you mean an electronic device, right?
Yeah.
Then it's different because there's no vibrations. Here, the vibrations are the same vibrations.
They define sound.
No, it doesn't depend on how you define sound. In other words, there's no when you speak into a microphone, the old-fashioned microphone from my generation. So there was a bubble, right, and that created electronic impulses on the wire, just like a telegram, so to speak, and it came out on the other side, but there was no vibrations in the wire. The 2 cups and the string, the vibrations are there. How do you know? You hold the string in the middle and you choke out the voice. Well, we've all been there and done that, right? Okay, we have to look it up on Google, or we can really know what we're talking about. Anyways, all right. Anyways, fine. The Tzach Lispar Umad. The Tzach Lava Mishosh Maschel Abrachin. Abu Yeven and Siper Miyushav Yotza. Why do you have to? Because it says it's from a word in the pasuk that says you have to do it b'amida. Let's see the sharatzia. V'chei mochach betur. V'chei beis Yosef. D'chol birchas hamitzvos tzarich lios l'chadchila b'amida. U'befrat tzir gufa kasu ha'roshonim d'asmach nechsiv b'hachol kemesh bakama al tikri bakama ela b'kuma. So this is what we call, if we were learning the Eon, we would say we would just censor what we just said. If all mitzvahs are supposed to be done by Mida, we wouldn't need to have a drasha to tell you that here has to be done by Mida. We would say that's included in the regular rule. Elamai, the simple halacha is that brachas mitzvahs do not need to be done by Mida. And in fact, there's a prima godem in Hilchos B'dikas Chomich, which seems to say like that. All right, let's continue. All right. The Sefer Hayomim Vashvuos. We count the days and the weeks. Ketzad B'Yom Rishon Omer Hayom Yom Echad BaOmer Ad Shemagia LeShiva VaOz Yomer Hayom Shiva Yom Shen Shavua Echad BaOmer. So we count the singles and the weeks. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Chsiv Tisper Chamishim Yom, days. Chsiv Shiva Shavuot Tisper Lach, weeks. V'em Siper Yom B'chor V'lo Yizkir Shavuos Yesh Omer D'Yotz B'Diyav Yesh Omer D'Tzach L'Achzon L'Isra Yom B'Shavuos Kadin. You have to really do it. Al Ken Choyzer Sefer V'lo Bracha. V'em Shach L'Achzon L'Isra V'Mona Shayom Bracha. If you didn't, go back. Now, what does happen often is people count and they do the days right, but they're a little bit feeble on this sophisticated math of 4 days and 3 months. Always at hours and days and whatever, and they make a mistake. And then the next week, say, well, I thought I said 6 days, and it really was supposed to be 5 days. So they go over to the rabbi and ask, what's the halacha?
Why do we even do the middle of the week counting?
Oh, okay. We'll do that next week. We'll discuss that issue. The fractions also have a place, a minor place, but the weeks by themselves are a different sphere. There's a story from the Beis Halevi about that. Next week we'll discuss that. But this is something which happens, and I urge people to count with a sitter so that they get the fraction is the word that's supposed to be using. The week, the amount of days, get that right.
Day 7.